to ask any questions or any comments. We're going to be monitoring, and then we will give you some time for Q&A throughout the presentation and at the end. So we are going to record it. Okay, so please bear with us because this is all new to all of us right now. Okay, great. Thank you, Peter, for confirming that it is recording. All right, so welcome everybody again for a great hour of learning. And with that, please, Meredith.
I know, it's funny. We've been doing this now for what, like 4 months online? Yes. And like literally every time I'm like, oh God, like what do I hit? What do I do? So I'm going to start sharing here. Patty gave me too much credit. Well, actually what she's saying is I don't have hobbies, which is accurate, because I was lucky enough to go to one of the few universities in the US that has world language education at every level in terms of like undergraduate, graduate, and like multiple, obviously, within the graduate. So I probably need some other things to do. But yeah, we got talking, Patty and I got talking about just technology. And what were we doing, Patty? I don't remember. We were on a call for something for Lil maybe or something.
We were doing the AZLA Cafe.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I might have dropped in. Yeah. And so I'm in Atlanta, and I'm just outside of Atlanta, in Gwinnett County, which is humongous. And we have no idea what the fall is going to look like. We think we do, but I don't think we do. So I think we have a plan to get a plan, which is about par for the course for everybody. And so we were, I just chatting after the AZLA Cafe. I was like, hey, do you want a thing? And so here we are. So I'm super excited. And what you're going to see a bunch of different, some technology resources, especially if we're remote, but also just some ideas that you can probably use technology to enhance resources you already have. I think a lot of times as teachers, we get sort of like, the latest, greatest teacher shiny, and it's like, here you go, take it. And also take all of these other tools you need to run it, and also learn all of them. And if you could, learn this and this, and if you could use it and maybe soon, and then share it. And we're like, I don't even know what it is. Like, what are you even talking about? Hopefully this will give you some different ideas of how to use some technology tools, but also maybe just how to level up some stuff you already have. Because to be honest, like I said, like I think got a plan to have a plan, and that plan will probably have more plans, but I'm not positive. So I have no idea what school starting in 4 weeks for me, fewer than 4 weeks, looks like, honestly. So these are a lot of my favorite things that incorporate proficiency in the 6 core practices and all that kind of thing, but just with technology, especially if we're going to be remote or partial, and so on and so forth. Hopefully you can find some things that apply to you if you're in DLI, if you're in elementary school, middle school, higher ed, anything, anywhere in between. I teach Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, like I said, just outside of Atlanta. And so when I think of things, I think of big classes. My classes are usually 36. That's just what I'm used to. I think that's normal for everyone. And then when it's not, I am surprised and envious. And my school is 3,500 students approximately, within a district of 184,000 students. So I'm in a department of 14, and we have 141 schools. So if that gives you kind of like some kind of a feeling for where I am, a lot of these things are things that are efficient and that allow you to do things on a big scale, because everything in Texas is bigger, but also in Georgia, because there's a lot going on. So when you clicked on, you should be able to see my screen. When you clicked on that link, this is what should come up, and you can make a copy of anything. So I'll go back to that. You can make a copy of anything that you see. And you'll notice that in the speaker notes too, I've got lots of resources shared. So you should be able to copy that over to your files and then rock and roll, follow along, get ahead, up to you. But you'll see that when the cursor changes from like the arrow to the little like where did it go? There he is, like a little little pointy hand. That's going to be something hyperlinked. And so anything that I've shared within here should be hyperlinked where possible. And then if it's not, it's probably hyperlinked in the speaker notes. If it's not, that's weird. And I think there might only be a couple like that. So it may just not be a thing that needs a link. And I broke this down into a couple of objectives. First is, how can we engage learners remotely? And I know this is kind of a tricky question, but I have to push myself to think of, how do I engage learners anyway? How do I engage learners, period? If there's 36 of them in front of me, and how are we defining engagement? And then how can I tell that all 36 are engaged at one time? Spoiler, they're not, because it's like a faculty meeting. Am I engaged in every faculty meeting? I am not. So I don't know how honest I can be, Patty. Let me know if I'm too honest. But when we look at engagement, what's actually realistic? Why are we engaged in things? And also, what kind of tools are we using to get people to that level where they go, because to me, engagement is curiosity and a desire to follow up on that curiosity. Like, that's interesting. Let me see about that. And now I'm more willing to pay attention and to learn a thing. When I talk about some of these tech tools, I come back to the 6 core practices. And so I think the infographic that got Patty and me talking was this one, where I was like, what the tech? And notice I put my favorite tools. These are not all the tools. I am aware of all the tools, or at least most of them, but these are mine. And you'll notice that a lot of them repeat, because it's like a good pair of shoes, or like that jacket that just fits really well. I'm not changing it. And I'm sticking with the jacket that I like. I'm sticking with my favorite outfit. I'm doing what I want. It's like, once I get a thing, I really hate when it changes, because I've committed to the thing. So I also want you to feel kind of like, what I felt when I started reflecting on that, which was a sense of confidence in choosing a tech tool, instead of going like, what the tech am I supposed to do? Like, what they keep, my district keeps having these meetings in my planning, which is the worst. Our school always has the tech meetings during planning. I can't. And like, so then I'm not engaged, because this is annoying and it feels like a waste of my time. And I might not, tech tools are really personal. I might not want to use this particular technology tool. And so do I have to? I don't think so. I've separated them on this graphic by mode. So you've got interpretive, interpersonal, presentational. And then at the bottom, I just put the things I like for organization and also creating materials, because those are sometimes the things we don't talk about. Like, what are we using technology for? Yeah, we talk about the 6 core practices and technology for language learning or assessment or whatever. It always comes back to assessment, right? Any of the district resources, but how are you going to assess them? And that's usually kind of what they gravitate towards. But what about planning? What about organizing? What about just getting my files together? What about delivering material to students? Some people like PowerPoint. Some people like Google Slides. Why use both? Just pick one, those kind of things. So thinking about how you like to use them in your own mind, or if they require a tech tool at all, because I made this little thing for myself and kind of just wrote down, all the different tools I like. And some of them, paper, please. Like, I'm not going to use, what's the one where you can do like the behavior? Class Dojo. I did Class Dojo for like a day, and then I realized that I set down my iPad way too often to care enough about the Class Dojo. And also I teach high school, which, okay, fine. Like it works with that level, fine. But I'm setting it down. Then they're watching me walk around with it, and they're like, what are you clicking? What are you doing? Basically my same reaction when my administrator is standing there writing stuff, right? You're like, what are you writing? And so I found that it was just distracting, and I wasn't very efficient with it. So I track behavior and attendance on paper. If there's stuff you like with paper better, do it with paper, whatever. Don't feel the pressure necessarily to commit to tools that you're not invested in. The same way with anything else. So this was kind of my reflection form in creating that What the Tech infographic. So one teacher's preferences, and the things that I can use pretty much simultaneously, pretty sustainably. So you'll notice the repetition. That looks like a bunch of different tools, but a lot of them are the same in each mode. And so that's really nice. Looking at specifically the interpretive mode as well as creativity and creation, these are not anything that's in the slides, but a couple of things I learned this year from the pandemic, which was my Quizlet sets. So I love Quizlet for storing things. I don't even make like an anticipated vocabulary sheet anymore. I just keep adding ones that students add to our Quizlet set. And my goal this summer is to get all of like our entire department Spanish sets all in one account, which I think would be pretty cool. Then kids could go back and review the previous level, like if they're in Spanish 3 or French 3, and then they could also look ahead, because that's sometimes what they want to know. Oh, I hear French 3 is really hard. Can I get some materials? That's a really easy place to send them. If your vertical team has just like a vertical team, you know, Quizlet set or whatever, or Edpuzzle account, whatever it is, to be able to send them there and give them some supplemental materials. But I found that my labels were really confusing. I only had it by unit because I had the units memorized. And so I had kids totally doing like 4 Quizlet activities for the wrong level. Now, should they have noticed? Yes. Are students very observant? No. So that was a little bit tricky. That was a thing that I did not realize needed tweaking, but there it is. Also, I like to use Pinterest a lot for authentic resources. So for the interpretive mode, in terms of them just like seeing a thing, reading a thing, listening to a thing, Pinterest is really cool by topic. So you could say unit 1, or you could just say, you know, identity, family and home, you know, travel, whatever. You could just name them by the things. And my Pinterest boards should be in the notes, should be in the speaker notes. If not, I can add them too. And that's been a really fun way just to send kids almost like a choice board that always lives there. If you've got an open-ended task where they can just go choose the thing, especially if it's something you've used in class already, cool, then they get some repetition. If it's something they haven't seen, awesome, they chose something new, also cool. So it's kind of up to them. It gives them actual choice, still within my choices of their choice, but you know, a little more choice than we can necessarily do all the time in the classroom with having copies and so on. Same thing with YouTube videos. You can do them by theme or unit. And just in terms of organization and creativity, Bitmoji classrooms were all the rage once we realized we were all going to be in this space for a while, like in April. But even if they died out, the Facebook group Bitmoji craze for educators, it's a lot happening, but the stuff shared there is pretty cool. So if you kind of dip your toe in that pond, scroll around and kind of, you know, see what there is to see, and don't get too kind of hung up in it. The Bitmoji or the virtual classrooms are really cool. I linked mine here. You can take my free setup. The couch, I can't remember if I updated it now. You might be in a chair. I just made my Bitmoji sitting in a couch, and I think I prefer the couch. So you can have fun with that at any level. At the elementary level, it can be fun to showcase reading things, materials, resources, etc. At the high school level, I plan on just using it to keep keep different technological resources in one place and like maybe post a sign, but I'm not going to go crazy. So again, it's like tempering that inner pressure. So thinking about some of those resources, Edpuzzle in terms of, remote teaching, but just all the time, but especially for remote teaching, Edpuzzle is great for the interpretive mode. So one of my favorite things to do to kind of level up Edpuzzle, because you can search videos and embed those questions, or you can find a video first and then make it into an Edpuzzle, meaning you send it to Ed, like you put in the link to Edpuzzle and then you embed questions. One of the things I really like to do if you're looking to spice up your Edpuzzles, but also form some of those relationships and also, expose kids to your identity to a degree. If we're starting online, like they can't see us in person. My bet is that we're going to start online where I am. So don't hold me to that, but like, I think we are. So how are they going to get to know me? How are they going to get to know, especially level 1? I teach level 1, like, hi, welcome. This is your first time. How are they going to get to know us, as well as kind of get the sense of us, kind of the essence? One really fun way, I think it's really fun to do that, is just to make my own Edpuzzle videos. But to me, like making a video just sounds like a lot of time I might not have. And so I like to use Snapchat and just put captions on top of the videos or put silly filters. and those kind of things. And I find that to be a really fun way to make videos in an easy way without like a program or software or whatever, because Snapchat is just an app, and then make those into the Ed puzzle. So this was going to the Central States Conference. Like I said, I cheat on my state and my region quite often. This was going to Central States like 2 or 3 years ago. And so we were in the travel unit. So I said, well, what the heck? And I just recorded videos throughout the airport. Got some strange looks, but you know, it's for the kids. And then embedded questions on top of that. So my video could have a caption, and then all of my videos like, thanks to Snapchat, I just downloaded them directly from Snapchat once they were in my story. And so I downloaded that. They were already in a montage, and then all I had to do was plug in questions. So that was pretty cool. Now the kids are seeing me and they're like, where are you going? You know, there's that engagement piece of just, they're kind of nosy, and they were kind of interested, like, oh, are you just walking through the airport speaking Spanish? Yes, I am. It's for you. And then they like the picture too, where I get pulled into security. Security was not amused at the recording of the Spanish, just the recording. So I don't recommend the airport, but any place else, especially native speaker friends, native speaker family. Suddenly you can take these experiences where you're just recording. You can curate your own videos instead of spending an hour online trying to find the ones that have these specific vocabulary words, which we all know that we've definitely done. If you haven't, you're really lucky, because some of us have spent hours just trying to find something that has like lettuce, tomato, stepsister, and sandals. Like you're just on the internet searching, scouring. So why not instead create it if you have to, you know, cater to a certain amount of certain set dialogue and certain vocabulary. Another one that's going to come across, this is going to be like a little bit creepy, but I love it. Is ifaketextmessage.com. Actual website, will not give you spam or malware or anything, but it's a hilarious way to make text message conversations. So I make mine from celebrities who are in love with me because, you know, I mean, come on, why not? This is my chance. This is my opportunity. So I love Nicky Jam. He got recently divorced. I was very excited about that. Students came literally sprinting in the next day. They were like, Senora, Nicky Jam divorced. Let's do this. Hop to it, which I thought was delightful. They get me. And so what you can do is you can plug in the different messages and who they're from, and also other details. So you can even change the battery life. How funny would it be if Nicky Jam invited me to the movies, but then I changed my cell phone battery to like 1%, you know? And it's like, oh no, why doesn't she respond? So it doesn't have to be just basic level. It can be, obviously, you know, you could use emojis, you can plug in like whatever you want, but it could have plot twists, like character emotions, different nuances, and so on. Once you save the image from iFake text message, that's it. There's no editing. You've committed to it. You're done. So if you realize a typo, which I do every single time, if you realize a typo or you missed an accent or something, you got to do it all again. So just be really careful. But what we like to do them in level 1 is their first assessment. They see a lot of text messages like this. They see a lot of conversations that go, you know, back and forth. This is where Nicky Jam is telling me how amazing I am, like, obviously. And so then we made some similar conversations with the really contrived stuff that is like a unit 1, level 1. It's like a conversation nobody ever has. Birthday, colors, date, name, what else? Yeah, like maybe a couple of self descriptions, where you're from. So it's like you know, toddlers having a conversation, and all those kind of things. So we made our interpersonal, well, it's more really an interpretive reading, but if they had written it, it would have been like sort of interpersonal writing, but scripted. But we made some of these, and this just became the reading / writing / whatever part of one of our first assessments, like in August, like after a couple of weeks. So students just have to put in the number of what they think fits there. They could obviously write it in, and as long as I think our vertical team decides what we're giving credit for and not, you know, does it have to be exact? I'm not down with that. So we just figured a number was easier. We just want to see, like, oh, and weather. That's the other thing. Weather, colors, numbers, the date, you know, really a lot of substance there. But that's what we have, so we have to work with it. So this was a fun way and not intimidating for them, because they're familiar with how text message conversations work. Texting story is cool. So you'll see if you have a copy of this, you can play those, and you can do the same thing. There's Nikki Jam again, texting me all the time. And so you can go back and forth, and you type them. It's an app that you download on your phone, and you type them, and then you can save them. So these are some interpretive reading, and the video, to be honest, goes kind of fast. And so kids are like, watching it, if you watch it in class, or watch it digitally, obviously they can replay it, but in class, they're kind of at my mercy, and you're watching them like read feverishly, which is entertaining, but you might have to do some pausing. And so maybe then it's like, what happens next? What's the next, what are the character emotions here? What's the next message exchange? Maybe that therefore is the writing product. Like, tell me how this continues to play out. And that could be pretty cool, because now they actually have to understand also, but think, beyond just, hi, how are you? Oh, you're funny, whatever. It gives it a little bit more depth. And that's pretty fun. I like to make them between students too, because it's just, again, there's just like a little bit of investment, and they're a little bit curious, like, oh geez, what has this corny, cheesy lady made for us to read now? And I'm like, what are you talking about? These are real messages. So they don't believe me. I don't know why. If you've got some of those resources, or you've got like an authentic resource, I like to pair them with Anne-Marie Chase's amazing, she's in Nevada, amazing interpretive rubrics. These, I like to use them formatively. I don't know that I would use them summatively at all, but we use them formatively really often. At any given time, in person, my kids have like 3 or 4 of these that they can turn to and like just have on a piece of paper all the time. And Anne-Marie Chase, when all of this happened, like in the pandemic, when it began, she made an electronic version. So you should be able to access that blog post. And then where it says electronic version here, she's got like a COVID-19 version. And she has a whole blog post that breaks down like the levels. And so what it does is it puts the interpretive rubrics from ACTFL, again, back to those 6 core practices, like the things that kind of guide us, right, with the standards. It brings it back to kind of what's level appropriate that they be able to do. So if you've got that Pinterest board of infographics and YouTube videos, and like a YouTuber that's like, putting on makeup, and you're like, I have this daily routine, but like, my gosh, I found these 3 great videos. Do I have to make comprehension questions for all of these? That to me sounds exhausting. And to be honest, like, this is where I have like some unpopular opinions. To me, comprehension questions, to a degree, I think they lead to a lot of things that are meaningful, but to a degree, comprehension questions kind of just say, read my mind, because I know when I'm making them like from my value system and my level of language. So if I'm like, oh, I'll use a Spanish example, like, what does gastronomía probably mean? Like I'm expecting like 15 and 16-year-olds to recognize gastronomy in English. No, like So looking at things from our level and our experience, sometimes a little bit tricky, and sometimes comprehension questions, do that. And they kind of like push kids towards like, come on, what am I probably thinking? Instead of, let's actually explore this resource. These interpretive rubrics don't have any questions. They just focus on what students can see, can read, can recognize, and can do. So it almost comes back to those can do statements, not what haven't you learned yet, but what can you do with what you're given. These are great with infographics. And like I said, some of those really dense, authentic resources that are like fast and heavy, give them one of these rubrics, see what they can interpret. It takes the pressure off of students. These have been a godsend. I don't remember when she posted this, but I think this is our 2nd school year with them. I want to say it was like late 2018. I'll never not use them. She's got them for like all levels, and the language doesn't matter because, it's all open-ended. You can also list the 6 words in English and in the language, like it's an editable Google Doc. So I have the kids tell me Spanish and English because they could just copy them. Like I want them to actually, evidence their claims. And so these are really good with a lot of heavy cultural resources. In terms of pandemic teaching, but also all the time in person, I have copies of these. So some interpretive resources, but things that fuel students to then produce. Like it or not, you know, we know all the things about acquisition, but you know, or we continually are learning them, but we know that students and parents and administrators who are typically, at least where I am, monolingual, and they don't have a positive language experience because they tell us that, they are looking for production. And one way that Bethany Drew, for one, she's the creator of this weekend chat. One of the things you can do is just a lot of heavy scaffolding, but give them a lot of opportunities to use these. So whether it's at the beginning of class, at the end of class, whenever it is, things like weekday and weekend chat can supplement their speaking. But again, they're engaging because, you know, no, what'd you really do? And there's that relationship piece, right? Like, oh, you went to your, you know, brother's bar mitzvah. Cool. Like, that's awesome. How was it? And so on and so forth. Even if you don't make that information public, even if it's just one-on-one chatting, it's still just a way to get to know kids, and a way for them to get to know each other a little bit. But I look at the kind of us getting to know them first before that. This particular weekend chat, both of these link. The weekday chat's only in Spanish, but feel free to totally take a copy and, you know, put it in your language and share it. This is from my colleague Hannah. And then Bethany made the weekend chat, and in person, one side is future, one side is past. So I like to milk it for all it's worth and use the future on Friday and the past on Monday. So my students come in and, you know, they just flip it over. It's literally like a two-sided piece of paper thing. It's just a nice way to fuel conversation, like I said, and get them thinking about what they want to say, not just how to say it. The how to say it, you know, is obviously there, but really getting them to focus on what they want to say and what they actually did, instead of the thing we know they do, which is, how do you say, and now they're asking you, now you're telling them about their own weekend because they're focused too much on how and not like the why or the what. So looking a little bit more communicatively. These work really nicely electronically as well. So I like the electronic versions for remote teaching, and you can just download them as like an image and it's totally fine. It's doesn't have to be paper, obviously, in person. Another way thinking, again, looking at like the essential questions, and I put those in that first slide. Also, I just noticed there's like a heavenly, like a heavenly glow. This is fantastic. I hope this bodes well for the school year, because we need some heavenly glow. One of the things that I think puts off a lot of student anxiety, like kind of lets it subside and also takes some of the stress off of us as teachers, is figuring out when the heck we're going to give feedback. So how can we use technology to do some of these things? Okay, we used, you know, Google Docs for them to do some writing. Now what? Or we used our school's, you know, chosen platform to do a test or to do whatever. Now what? Like, now what's the feedback look like? Not the 87 or the 93, but what does the actual feedback look like? And one of the things that we've done in the last couple of years in my department is just asking students, this is going to sound really silly. Hopefully it's maybe like an aha moment for you as it was for me, because it for sure was for me. I was spending hours of my life marking papers, marking every accent, taking papers home, like just like a, you know, like a whole suitcase, like a rolly thing of papers, and then either leaving them in my car and being mad at myself mostly, or grading them for hours and then being really frustrated, and if I'm being honest, resentful towards students who would go, oh, cool, 84. And they'd crumple it up and throw it away, or just like shove it in their folder. And I'm like, because I'm picturing like hours of my life that I lost doing that. And so I'm like, how could you not care? But why would they care? We've raised them in a system where grades are king, and you know what, if they're not used to valuable feedback, it's going to take some getting used to. And so one thing that we've done on our writing assessments, quizzes, tests, whatever, is just ask them if they want corrective feedback. The research shows that by and large, corrective feedback doesn't really help unless the students are specifically motivated in different situations to be receptive to the feedback. That would have been me as a learner. I wanted to know everything. I'm like, tell me how I should have said this. And I was fine with that. It wasn't going to ruin my day. Some students don't care, and some students care so much that they actually are mad at you because you gave them that feedback. You know, if the paper is just bleeding and it's like, lady, I just met you 3 days ago. Why are you already ripping me apart? Again, I think of teacher eval. I'm like, dude, you don't even know me. Like, how dare you say that about my class? It's the same vulnerability. So we've been asking students the last couple of years if they want feedback at all. Eventually, pretty much all of them do. Pretty much all are like, yeah, I think I'm ready for it, because they realize they just keep checking no. And then it's like, okay. Like after a while, apathy's not really hip, I guess. I don't know. So by the end of the level, we pretty much just have everybody asking for corrective feedback. Or like a friend of mine, Shannon, here in Georgia, what kind of feedback do you want? Maybe not just do you want feedback, but like what kind? Because now students need to have like a meta awareness regarding like what kind of feedback they're ready to receive, and also what's most valuable. My student Zaylani, she wants every single grammar point, and she wants how you would have said it. But Kendon, he just wants to know why he got a 79 and not an 80, because one's a C and one's a B. Cool, we can do that. What kind of feedback do you want? Then students start to see how you're spending your time as a teacher. And that's pretty cool, is they go like, oh, okay, huh, like this took you, so you just did this part. And they start to see what else you could have done. You're gonna have some, they're gonna check all three, even though the directions say, please choose one. I'm like, I picked my favorite out of the three that you chose. Thank you so much. But eventually you'll see a lot of them doing, or I see a lot of them doing like a variety, you know, like, hey, this time tell me this time tell me this. And if it's on paper like this, they can just really easily resubmit back in the inbox in the classroom. If it's digital, cool, no problem. Like share with me a new doc, or you know what? Put it back in the email reply. Like sometimes I overcomplicate things. I'm like, put in a document, share it with me. And now I'm like, great, like trying to find a million Google Docs. Just email it to me, right? Like their name is already in the from. I'm not every opportunity has to be like academic writing, you know, APA format. No, I'm good, because March was a dumpster fire in a lot of ways. Like more emails than I have ever gotten in my life, most of them lowercase. No, thank you. Like I'm not, no punctuation. I'm not here for it. Like let's make this email space productive. So that's a couple of things we've done. This is one of Martina Bex's rubrics, and Martina Bex is incredible. But this is one of her free rubrics. She's since updated them, and I think they're like about $5. And they have, again, all of the actful performance indicators along the side. What my modification was in March was I just plugged these same rubric like text boxes, like I just typed them into our learning management system. We use eclass. So eclass is like our Canvas or whatever. And so I just plugged them into eclass. And then as I was reading students writing and, you know, weeding it away from the completely Google translated, whatever, then I was able just to like click through it and go, okay, yeah, here's where you are. Not you made 5 errors, you made 6 spelling errors, 9 grammar, whatever, but here's where the communicative properties of your language production lie, which I find a lot faster and a lot more fulfilling, because it points out what they can do and not what they're lacking. A lot of times our rubrics are like, oop, gotcha. And they're actually kind of going up from 0 in ways instead of sort of coming down from 100 or vice versa. They're sort of not, they don't build very well. It's like, oop, you missed this and you didn't quite do this or whatever. Rubrics like this one, the more communicative rubrics, just assess 2 things. Is your response appropriate for the situation, and how comprehensible is it? Because ultimately somebody on the street, that's what they're going to care about. So as much as we can mimic some of those interactions outside of the classroom, why not? You know, and a mix of, if you have to use other rubrics, well, of course, like use those too. But I like these communicative ones, just at the very least to kind of change it up. But we're lucky that we're in a department that supports sort of rubrics like this, and we're getting away from like some of those numbered ones. Another way, I know I mentioned Bethany Drew earlier, but she really is incredible and does a lot, like everything masterfully. And one of the things she does that she really brought me to was, okay, again, like using technology, using some of these, even just, I mean, again, this was being able to plug the rubrics into the learning management system, and not having to totally choose a new task. Like, I just want to utilize the system I already have in front of me. How can I not be grading, a million Google Docs when our district pays for eclass or Canvas? How can I take back if I am using Google Docs or something, how can I give students really specific feedback so that I'm not sitting at the computer like we were in March going, oh my gosh, help. These are things hopefully that you're seeing work from in a traditional setting, but also remotely. One thing she does really well is scaffolding. And we throw that word around, right? But when they're doing those writings, or when they're doing some of those interpretive tasks that turn into production, like speaking or writing, how are we scaffolding them? And how are we lowering the chances that they have to read our mind? And one of the ways that that I was able to do that after learning from Bethany was just telling them, like, here's the scaffolding, here are the things you can use, here's what's going to take you, from that 79 Kendon to an 80, or from that 89 to a 90, because at the end of the day, we do have grades, but why not just, put it in there and then see what they do with it, not just if they do with it. Patty, are there any questions in the chat or anything we need to address? We'll wrap up here in about 10-15 minutes.
Yes. So I have 3 questions for you. What if we are not invested in a tool and your administration wants you to commit to it?
Ugh, hate. We have, I have no opinion. No, I have an opinion. I think it depends on the tool. I'll give you an example. My school uses All-in Learning, which is all multiple choice. Like, it caters towards math, history, language arts, and all of those things that use a lot of multiple choice. And I was actually able to use it with like exit cards. So I kind of met them halfway. I looked at some grammar specifically or explicitly, using some of those multiple choice things. And because All-in Learning prints sheets, like the cool part is it prints sheets for every kid. Their name is automatically on it, whatever. But again, it's all multiple choice. I have found little ways like that to go, okay, I'll try, and integrate little things in. If it's something major, I'm not sure, or I would need more information. But some of the things, our district's it's so big that we have we have a reasonable amount of freedom, because I have like 14 administrators, so they don't really have the time to be sort of micromanaging like a lot of things, which is nice. And they're very supportive. I would need more information about the tool, or about like, what's their accountability check? How are they forcing teachers to use it? Because like I said, with All-in Learning as one example, or a couple others, I've been able to kind of get around it or use it like a little bit and move on.
So our next question is, by virtual classroom, you mean Canvas and others like it?
Yeah, totally. At the beginning, I had mentioned like a Bitmoji classroom. Feel free to click on that link or ignore it, because it's like a rabbit hole that you can get yourself down, and 6 hours later, you're like still clicking around. But yeah, either like sort of virtual classroom could be absolutely your LMS, your learning management system, Canvas. Like I said, we use eClass, which is the old Blackboard, like D2L, iCollege. Those are all the same. They're the same platforms for us. ELC, it's all like eClass and falls under the same thing for us. To me, if the district spent the money on it, no problem. Like that, I think, was one of the problems that happened in March, was because my district apparently can't decide very well. So we have like eClass and Google Classroom. And so you had teachers that were putting stuff in all these different places. And so kids then were going, oh, well, my language arts teacher, uses Google Classroom. Well, my math teacher uses eClass. And so that was kind of confusing for kids, I think, and also confusing for teachers. So I'm usually kind of a do my own thing person, but the last couple of years, I really embraced just eClass and what it can do for me, because ultimately that's easier, and I'm more supported in saying everything's on eClass instead of getting kids over to like Schoology or something that I'm not using.
Our next question, what happens when they keep making the same mistakes over and over again because they never asked for corrective feedback?
Well, I think you have to look like at the science behind corrective feedback. I know there's a couple of mistakes. I mean, it might have just fossilized, to be honest. I make a couple of the same mistakes repeatedly in Spanish, and native speaker friends correct me repeatedly. And I go, oh yeah, that's right. Thanks. and then I pretty much do it again. Or I have to think about it, you know, extra next time and go, oh, this is the thing. This is the thing they say I do. You know, it's like por and para. Oh my God. Ser and a star. Oh, the second I think I've got a grip, you know, I've been learning Spanish now 20 years. The second I think I've got a grip on it, somebody says, and I'll use a Spanish example because that's the only language I know. Somebody says something like the food, like la comida estuvo rica. Right? Why is that a star? Why is that preterite? Like, I have so many questions. So I think if students are making the same mistake repeatedly, I think the question to ask ourselves is, or sort of like errors, the same errors repeatedly. Is it impeding communication? And like, so if not, if it just matters to me, maybe offer it up to the student. But if they're like, okay, yeah, but could you understand me? Yeah. Eventually in the proficiency levels, grammar does come into play, and understandability, comprehensibility absolutely comes into play. So it's not that grammar is like a naughty word, or, you know, it's like, oh, we're just not grading anything anymore. They can just do whatever they want. No, they can only get so far on those proficiency levels. So if you're in level 2 and you're still making those same errors, like you're still saying, me llamo S, like my name, I call myself is, my name is, or you're just using infinitives, like I to eat bananas, that can work in some scenarios, but eventually if you're trying to say, if you're at a hospital in Madrid saying I to eat bananas, and you're having an allergic reaction or something, or you're showing them some kind of rash, they're not going to have any idea what you're saying. So eventually the communicative consequences will be natural, if that makes sense. Like I used to lose a lot of sleep over, stop saying this, you keep making this mistake. And now I have to like take a step back and chill out my own teacher brain a little bit and go, okay, well, could I still understand them? Yes, fortunately or unfortunately. And then in the rubric, how did it affect comprehension, if at all?
So we'll let you continue, and then we can take a few more questions after.
Yeah, no worries. I'm easy. Please, okay. Just like mute me whenever you want.
Okay.
God, I'm really going to miss the muting if we start back in person, because I've just gotten used to like mute with students. So I guess I shouldn't just say to students like, excuse me, Johnny, you're muted. Like, Senora, we're in person. You don't need to mute me. Don't I though? Don't I? Yeah, that muting function would have been nice. But anyway, so again, looking like at some of those things, but like, I mean, your questions were my questions too. A lot of these things take like, okay, like some reconceptualization of like, what does this look like though? Or what do I do if my colleagues are resistant? You know, what if I go, this communicative rubric is amazing, but your colleagues are going, no, eight misspellings, 3 missed accents, you know, they want to do algebra while they're grading. Their point of view isn't invalid. It's just, where are they coming from? So much of technology and so much of the tools that we use as language teachers is really personal. And so much of it is how we learned, how we were taught to teach, and also what are our professional community connections that keep us learning and finding new materials and those kind of things, because how are we kind of pushing ourselves? And that's really hard some places in different departments, in different scenarios. So I totally understand that. One of the second things I was thinking about in all of this with the technology tools is just interpersonal remote learning. So these are some of my favorite interpersonal tools. Even if they don't seemingly seem interpersonal, like Padlet, you're like, wait, that's just presentational. They just write stuff, but you can respond, you can comment, or you as the teacher can prompt things that are interpersonal. So I can say here, like, what do I do to be healthy? What not to do? Other recommendations. And this was a level 2 class, like early in like unit 3, Spanish 2, unit 3, taking things from an article. And so I was saying, what do you recommend to be healthy? And then they had to take their recommendations either from the infographic or like make a new one based on what the infographic said. And that's kind of a fun formative. If their edition isn't there, you can see these, like not all of them have names. I'm not going to guess. It's just a formative. So the consequences are natural. If little Patty Fernandez doesn't put her name on it and then bombs the quiz, Now I can go, hey, Patty, so you got a 60 on the quiz. Did you do the Padlet? Like the quiz was this. Maybe the quiz says, what do you recommend to be healthy? And they could have studied this all week when we made it on Monday. I'm a Friday quiz person. So you had 4 days to come back and re-access this Padlet. Oh, you never did it in the first place. Oh, little Patty Fernandez, that's the problem. Like maybe you're not aware of all the things. And so I love Padlets as just a formative. With Padlet, I think you only get so many free. So I'm constantly having to delete old ones to make the new ones, FYI. So I like Padlet, but it's fun for a lot of presentational writing, but just a glance, what are the grammar errors we're making? You know, like that question, like, what if they just keep making the same one? Oh, well, then they keep making the same one. My dad keeps putting an S on the end of every grocery store, like Kroger's, it's like Walmart's, Target's. I'm like, I don't, whatever. And his first language is English. So, you know, it's fossilized. Here we are. It is what it is. Another thing that may feel kind of unsafe for interpersonal, but I like for presentational interpretive, is also social media. So even just as a creation tool, you saw where I mentioned like Snapchat for Ed puzzles, especially if we're remote, the more that we are kind of centered in the thing, the more interesting they find it, even if we don't find ourselves interesting. They think we're old, they think we're practically dead, they think we don't do anything, we don't have any hobbies. Maybe those are all true, I don't know. Probably mostly true for me, but regardless, it still makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more engaging. And so even as a creation tool, I've got a lot of information here as to how you can make social media work in your favor, and you don't have to interact with students. Instagram and Snapchat both are great creation tools just for like pictures and videos, and you don't ever have to share them with anyone. You can literally make an account that has like 0 followers, take advantage of all the tools, and then move on. Just make them Ed puzzles, make them into warm-ups, doesn't matter. You can make them into anything you want. So don't, you know, not thinking of like discounting social media or as if it's like all or nothing, because you can make pictures like these where it's like your little Bitmoji moving around doing things. You've got silly filters. I clearly do not have a beard. So these are filters, or like a headband on, or long red hair. So these are all different filters. And again, I'm able to curate the caption. So if I see, if they're still making like that question, like if they're still making those same errors, quote unquote, I can go, you know what, let's get a whole like series of me using, you know, the verb estar in context, because they're starting to use the, you know, ser, like the other to be verb over like for everything, which they do. It's late acquired. So they just start applying soy and s to everything, like little kids when they're learning languages or their first language. And so why don't I just make a series of pictures? Take advantage of those filters. They're kind of fun and kind of silly. And the kids will just roll their eyes and go, oh my God, are you serious? Like, lady, you're ridiculous. That is accurate. I am ridiculous. But again, engaging and interesting, and gets them in some of those interpersonal things. Either they can respond to the picture, they can respond and comment on a thing, like our class Instagram account. You can disable comments. It doesn't have to be interpersonal. I'm just throwing out ideas. But disabling comments might be more your jam. Make a class social media account, but sorry, no communication here and no can do. Don't message me, I won't message you. And it can just be purely interpretive for them. Great, no problem. And, you know, then you can increase the safety that way, and the, you know, maybe liability if that's an issue where you are. Another tool that's been fun in this pandemic, so maybe fun isn't the appropriate word, but has been very useful, is Goformative. They're trying to change the name. They're just calling themselves Formative now, but we know it's Goformative. And this is fun in any mode. I put it here in interpersonal, but really this was our graduation flyer before all this happened. So like in March, our district put it out in Spanish. They always put out English, Spanish, Korean, and a couple other languages. And what's really cool is you can use it interpersonally. So you can have like a voice prompt where students respond within the document in their own account, like to your question. So they can respond with audio, they can respond with text, they can interact with different questions that you pose via text. And it doesn't just have to be PDFs, but PDFs are a really cool way to, it makes it into an interactive PDF. And so students join the class and you can do a whole bunch of different things with it, especially remotely. I like formative, Goformative anyway, but remotely, it gets them really looking into a text, and it's open-ended. If it's like, you know, in your opinion, virtual graduation, same or different, you know, worth it or not worth it. And you can actually get them thinking about some deeper things. And again, not focused on what they want to say, not just how to say it, but like how they actually feel about it. Formative is really cool. And I recommend it in terms of, it's like just a go-to repeated, you know, use kind of resource. In doing all of those things, I also think about, I don't know what your kind of situation is obviously with technology, but we use Outlook. We used to use IBM, but we also have Gmail accounts. Both of those can send emails later. And when I say that nothing organized me more than like a couple of these things during the pandemic, I'm telling you, like in terms of remote teaching, the only thing, like I was so lucky that I already used a bunch of online resources already, and I was so thankful. The only thing I was maybe second place more thankful for was the fact that I was able to organize all of the emails and at least have a sense of routine with all of those emails. One of them was just send later, because I think once you organize materials and kids get the sense, like those relationships, they get the sense that you've kind of got it together and that you have a plan and that there are objectives and resources posted and all those kind of things. They're more likely to do your work, obviously. You know, to me, it's obvious, like they're more engaged in it when it's not busy work, when it's not confusing, when there's a lot of support in place. So one of the technology tools, like I said, that I took advantage of was the send later. I had a weekly email that just went out that was like, hey, here's your to-do list for the week. And then the other one, because I kept getting the same questions, hopefully I'm not the only one here, that kept getting the same questions back, like from everybody. So more emails than anyone has ever seen, was I just turned on my vacation responder for my email. And adults didn't get it, but students got it. And the vacation responder was like an FAQ, like, hi, is this your problem? And then I hyperlink things. So if you have a school Gmail, that's a lot easier. It works with other things, but then it also means like adults might get it. But the vacation responder and the send later were key, because I was like, so many emails asking the same thing and usually responding to an email that had the answer in it already. And the third one there, as we wrap up, was the makeup form. A lot of those emails were from students going, hey, I did that thing late. I mean, there were no deadlines, right? I did that thing. Can you still get it? Is it possible for you still to see it? Can you grade it? Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh my God, my head's going to fall off. Or I'm just going to delete these emails, and like kids are going to be punished for the behavior that we actually want to see. We want to see kids checking on their grades and doing all of those things. So please take a copy of this Google form that my colleague Elsie made. It's incredible. And it just takes our paper form and makes it electronic, so that when kids do something after a suggested deadline, they're able to just put it in that Google spreadsheet. And now all you check is the spreadsheet. And then when they email, hey, did you get my grade? I don't know. Did you put it in the spreadsheet? I am anticipating that we will be online for the fall, at least where I am, at least for the first 9 weeks. I'm placing my bets. And this is going to be, again, like it was in the spring, clutch when it comes to keeping all of that straight, because it's already hard in person. And then online, even harder. The other thing I'm going to skip ahead, because Flipgrid is, Flipgrid's got all these like tutorials and stuff, but these are just really the three things I want to end on, which is when we're looking at remote teaching and when we're looking at engaging, especially with technology, especially when you're going, oh my God, so many tools, or my district's making me use X, Y, and Z. What can you immediately scale back or remove? If it's a tech tool, or if it's a concept, or if it's like a, you know what, we'll save that. Like we'll save whatever. What will be assessed and when? Like what dates can you already come into and already have a calendar waiting for students to see? And like a college syllabus, like here you go, here's what's going on, here's when it's happening. And how consistent are you with your team and your department, which can be a little bit of a tougher question sometimes. Our department has a 3-2-1 structure. So for every unit, 3 classwork, 2 quizzes, and 1 test. And so all of us have that same structure, and we collaborate on the quizzes and tests and use the same ones. So whatever we've decided is like the summative assessment, we collaborate on that. And then the other 3, the 3 classwork grades, are completely my discretion. I get to decide and get to do whatever I want. So I've got a stake in all of my grade book, but I've got explicit control over half of it. And then the other half I have to work with my team. But again, I'm on a team of 8 Spanish teachers. So that might be size-wise, accessibility-wise, different than your setting and different than your scenario. But looking at engagement, paring back, organizing, and figuring out what's happening when, and then getting on the same page, I think are going to be our saving graces when it comes to remote teaching and engaging students, because I think a lot of students are expecting this fall, if online or whatever, to look like the spring. And the spring was an emergency, but we've got a little bit more time now, and we've got the wherewithal to take a little bit more control over a situation that we really, as classroom teachers, I'm not a department chair, I'm not a leader of any kind. So it's like, I'm just waiting to be told what to do. And so I like to take some of that control and feel like I have a little bit more power within those things. Patty, anything from the questions or anything I'm missing? I stuck a couple of calendar examples and a couple more videos at the end right after this slide. So people can access, you guys can access those as you want if you're interested in that number 2, like how to organize for engagement.
Yeah, so we have 3 more questions. How do you react to pure Google Translate submissions? Do you give any credit or consider the submission incomplete?
Incomplete for sure. Well, kind of, depending. Okay, so I'm going to be really honest. When they give those HR videos, like at the beginning of the year, like bloodborne pathogens, I totally take the quiz. Then I read the modules. Then I take the quiz again. So I have like a big grain of salt when I look at students, because I'm like, oh, I see what you did there. Yeah, you took it, you had 4 tries and you took it 3 times and then saved the answers. Good for you. Okay, smart. But in terms of all Google Translate, that's all they're doing, is they're just going like, I'm either like, I don't feel like doing it, right? Normal. Or it's too hard for me. That we could look back at. Or just like, I don't really know what I'm doing and I don't really care, all of which are kind of valid. If it's totally Google Translate, I look back at like, why are you so afraid to make mistakes? It really is like deep ingrained in them that we just want them to do the thing. Like they really do think like, yeah, she won't know, but even if she does know, I still did it. And we're the only content area that really deals with this. They can't just like plug in, science and get the lab report. They can do that a little bit with math. You see some math like calculus sites that'll you put in the problem, it'll do the calculus and they can just copy the work. But like, it is what it is. And I think I tend to be an incomplete person, and incomplete with obviously the ability to redo and so on and so forth, because ultimately we do want them to do it, but it's like, hey, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I vocally give higher scores sometimes to the things with like more errors, to be honest, like, because this sounds like level 1, this sounds like level 2, this one, you say me llamo S and you are using the plusquamperfect. Grow up. Like I can tell, because you don't know, not a thing you can do. So I usually just take it like kid behavior, and just kind of laugh it off, but they have to redo it. And remotely, I tend to focus more on the interpretive, because it's really hard to get them out of that habit of thinking, I'll just use Google Translate. A few words here and there, yeah, no problem. But like the whole thing, redo.
All right, so let's see. We have a few more questions that I want to wait for the end. And if you submitted a question, if you want to stay a little bit longer, I want to be respectful of your time. Is 5 o'clock, but I want to share with you a couple of things before you go. Meredith, can you make me the host again?
Sure.
Thank you.
What is the password? No, I'm kidding. Done.
All right,
there?
Thank you.
Cool. Sure.
Let's see. I can share my screen. Okay, anyway, so let me put, I can share my screen, but I will put a link for you to please provide feedback for us about this session, and also any other sessions that, any topics that you would want to see AZLA brings to you. So the survey, I just posted the link. Please complete this survey. It's very important for us to plan ahead for future events. And we also want to encourage you to join AZLA. We have our conference coming up September 26th, and it will be virtual. So you can visit our website for more information. Registration will be ready for you very soon. And it is from 9 to 3 p.m. We will have our keynote is L.J. Randolph. Our theme is connecting through languages. The topic that he will be talking about is social justice in the world language classroom. So please visit our website and feel free to join. The good thing about the fall conference is with the price you pay, your membership is included. Your membership would allow you to also access previous conferences, like the recording for this video and future webinars that we will have. It will be only available to members. So I highly encourage you. The membership is only $25 a year, which is included. If you attend the full conference, it is included there. So it is a yearly membership. And we're all excited about bringing more webinars for you in the future. I want to thank everyone for joining today. I know we're all anxious about the beginning of the year, and I hope that all these resources are helpful for you. You have the link to our spreadsheet that we've been collecting more resources. Thank you for those who were sharing those resources with us. And let me go to the last few questions that we had. So let's see. Any recommendations for elementary, especially kindergarten? How will you do it online?
Oh, yeah, that's so not. Let me lead you to the experts. If you have elementary questions, I'm going to put my my Gmail in the website or in the chat. And so shoot me an email too, because I know Nell just had like a killer series and a killer webinar, and all of the elementary, like amazing people did an awesome job. And so they had a lot to tell. I mean, doing, like we know elementary, focusing on the interpretive, focusing on some things that elementary kids can really easily react to and those kind of things. But also maybe with limited devices, they might be in a house that's got several kids at home. And so, the kindergartner might not get the time on the iPad or the computer or whatever remotely that they need. So yeah, I can for sure, when I did elementary, I did it very poorly for the entire year. So I could definitely point you in the right direction, because they do amazing stuff. I know their webinars recently were incredible. Like they had a whole week of learning. So yeah, for sure, email me.
That's great. And also, I forgot to mention, once you complete the survey, right at the end, you will have a link where you can access your certificate for today. So
and
you
can you put the QR code? We can't
yes.
see the QR code.
You know what? I was trying to share my screen, but it won't let me.
There we go. Okay, now try it.
Okay. So there we go. Okay, there we go. So you can use your phone and scan that QR code, or go to the survey link. We will also email the video. I know some of you were asking. We will email you the video for all the participants. We have a few more questions. May I please have you repeat the 3-2-1 structure?
Totally. And I just stuck a link to a blog post that goes into it a little bit more. The website's weird, so when you see it, it's gonna look like the website is broken. It's not. Keep scrolling down. I don't know what WordPress is doing today, but I just put it in the chat. And 3-2-1 is just how we do each unit. Like what we grade each unit. So 3 classwork / homework, 2 quizzes, 1 test. So each unit of ours gets 6 grades, which is really nice. For me, it alleviates the stress of having to worry about what to grade. I can go into a unit and say, okay, not what am I grading, but when are we doing the following? And it's really, really nice. And it gives kids, I can go ahead and put those things on the calendar. I can say in the calendar comments, like what it is that what will be on the quiz, which classwork it'll be. And it just adds a feeling of transparency, which I think transparency is the biggest roadblock or like sort of open door to engagement, because it's real. I mean, look at our evaluations, look at our like faculty meetings. Look at right now, we have no idea what's going on. I'm literally just waiting to see what the school year is going to look like. And I have no power, no control. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do whatever. I'm going to comply because I have to. And if we can take that experience away from our classes, I think we're better off and we're more likely to get students engaged and not just compliant, but engaged. Not only are they going to do the thing, but they're going to get excited and at least a little bit curious about it as well. And when they can see it coming and you don't go, oh, you know what, Patty, you're not listening right now. That's it. We're taking this up. We're grading this. We've all been there. I've done that more times than I'd like to admit. And so if we can take away that piece of retaliatory grading or just like, oh my God, we haven't had a grade in 3 weeks. I'm so behind, you know, whatever. The more transparency we can add, I think the better off everybody is. And it gives us a little bit more clout, like a little bit more street cred with students, but it also just makes our lives easier.
Great. Then we have, which do you think is better, Google or eclass?
Ooh, that's a really hard question. Okay, I'm gonna have a really unpopular answer. I'm gonna go eclass. And I know I have friends that would be like, but I use all of the Google suites. I just like all of the Google resources in the Google suite. I just don't use Google Classroom. I don't know. I find eClass to be, again, a little bit more supported by where I am because we have to put everything on eClass. Google Classroom's extra. Well, why do I want to do it twice? I don't. So I don't. And I just put them on eClass. But also my bias is I had Blackboard for grad school both times. I had and then when I teach at the university level, it's the same program. So I have eClass or the equivalent, different name, like throughout my life. So, you know, in the last 10 years, that's like pretty much all I've used. So I'm comfortable with it, but also I know my district supports it. And when they give technology lessons, like technology presentations at my school, it's usually always based around the resource that they've already purchased and they've already invested in. So as much as I can, I use those just to make my life a little bit easier.
All right. So now, if you had to choose one app, website, resource that you like the best for assessing speaking in an online teaching environment, what would it be? Why? How often do you incorporate it?
Yeah, I would go Flipgrid for sure. Flipgrid for, I like that it does the video. Kids can move the video, so it's just audio, but you can also embed your own rubrics. So like when you give like feedback, you can like choose 1 through 5, and then you can define what 1 through 5 means, which I think is pretty cool. So you can just define it in the prompt and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that kind of thing. So, you know, technology issues aside or restrictions, I like that they only need a camera and that they only need like a Chromebook or a phone. Okay, now to be fair, so Jocelyn said in the chat, have you used extempore? Okay, no, don't hate me, because we have language labs in my district. So I have someone next door to me with the language lab from Stevens, Ralph, shout out to Ralph, that comes down from the ceiling, and they do like the headphones and the microphone and that kind of a thing. So my students can use those. I know. I knew you'd hate me, Jocelyn. Ralph is the best. I love Ralph so much. And so like we have those as a district, is that like that's just a thing we have. I don't have one, but the person next door to me does. So we swap 1 day a week. So like remote teaching only, Flipgrid, or Google Voice. But like normal day to day, we do a little bit of Flipgrid, maybe once per unit, maybe twice. Our units are about 3 weeks. So maybe once at the beginning, once at the end, and I can kind of compare them. But we use the language lab at least once a week. If I had one in my room, I would use it more than that. But, and that's just a resource that's available to us. But before I had a language lab, I would use Google Voice, probably same 1 to 2 times a unit. So not excessively, because we do a lot of speaking, you know, in class and a lot of informal conversations.
Right. Then, let's see, any resources to create your own infographics?
Ooh, yeah, Canva. Canva is my favorite. And you get a lot of features for, well, Canva's free. But if you want like individual, more expensive graphics, you pay within Canva, but I just choose the free ones. So like that What the Tech, I just made with Canva. Canva's awesome.
Which online platform do you use that students are required to have to log in?
Yeah, that one for us is, I'd say the one they're required to log in is eClass. Which is like I said, Blackboard, D2L, etc. And that's the one that they take attendance off of, like on a digital day, like a snow day or something where it's like, whatever. Atlanta's weird, y'all, okay? Like we've got 8 million people spread across like, 40 miles in diameter. And like, it's crazy. So if there's like heavy rain and then it's like 15 degrees, which it does like that, like overnight, we've got ice everywhere. So we have like ice days more than we have snow days, because all of a sudden it's just like 8 million people can't like leave their house. And so for like snow days and stuff, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, they have to go into eClass and they have to, that's how they take attendance on those days. So that's kind of how we were taking attendance in the spring. I don't know what that looks like this fall. But that's their mandatory, like we can check their logins and we can check how long they've been on different things. So if you're like, oh, Patty, you failed the quiz, but also you didn't look at any of the modules to study, that we can track. So our district platform is eClass.
Now formative, is it only for text? Can you see the students' answers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can see their answers. They can like respond in voice. They can respond in text. Like it's awesome.
Regina shared the book Balance with Blended Learning by Caitlin Tucker's books. I just wanted to mention that for everybody.
Yes.
Now I think I missed one here. Okay. I guess it's a comment. Do you feel that with all the technology, the students get more involved and engaged more and have a better opportunity to learn? And what about those that do not have internet or computer opportunities?
Yeah, no, I don't know what we're going to do. I know this spring it was kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. And there wasn't a lot of kind of follow up. We tend to use the word accountability too, or like we're told, right? Like, got to keep the students accountable, And for me, what that says from people in charge is grades. Got to give them grades, got to see if they're showing up. I'm hoping that this whole experience makes us relook at accountability. Because we're automatically, the second we take a grade for coming to the Zoom meeting at 6 o'clock or coming to the whatever at a certain time, and it requires internet and something to use that internet with, immediately we're grading equity and we're grading status, we're grading like socioeconomic standing, we're grading all these things that have nothing to do with school or language or anything else. So I don't know what that'll look like this fall, but I'm a little nervous. I know at the very least, and you can email me if you want more information on this, I can send you an example. In the last 2 or 3 years, I've gotten together all of my resources that I know that I love, like on paper, all my files for each unit. And I have finally put them together in one PDF. So at the beginning of a unit, my students get like every activity, like those interpretive rubrics, they get like 6 of those. And so they get all these different things already together. I'm wondering if that won't, and then we can just consult with that. So you can say page whatever of this, now we're gonna do this, Senor Willie, whatever. It's just like another resource. I sort of make my own like handout textbook. And that's been really helpful because in the pandemic, the kids that took it home, phew. So if in the fall, if I can just give them, here you go, here's units 1 through 6, like here you go, stapled together, as well as logins for Senora Willie, our stories, the textbook, like every resource ever that I use, I think I'll be better off. So let me know if you want to see kind of what a template looks like, and I can send you all sorts of things.
Right. And one last question. How does eClass compare to Canvas?
Oh, I don't know. I've never used Canvas, but I've not heard great things. So I don't know. I think they're all kind of, 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I've gotten to where I know eClass now. It's now like the devil I know, and I'm okay with that. It is what it is. So I've heard I've heard really good things about It's Learning. So we used to use Power School, but that was in a district where it didn't give the website. So I had to buy my own website. That was annoying. So at least now we have a website. We have a learning management system. For grades, we use Synergy. So the two don't speak to each other very well. So whatever's auto-graded in Synergy, you have to manually put into, or sorry, auto-graded in eclass, you have to manually put them in Synergy. So that's annoying. But I don't know. Yeah, you know, it's like technology is so personal that like what, you know, one person might say, oh, it's the worst. Somebody else might say, oh, it's the best. I don't mind eclass at this point. I think it's okay.
All right, so I'm going to thank you so much, Meredith, again,
Sure.
for your expertise, for sharing all your resources. And let me put you over here. Let me move you to my other screen so people can see. Can you guys see? Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Okay.
Perfect.
So one more time, if you could please provide feedback, and once you complete the survey, you will receive a link where you can print your certificate. There was a question about, a comment about, we don't have your name on it, so we do have a disclaimer there that we are trusting you that you will print it just for your personal use and add your name. So it is a little bit challenging to know who registers and then who actually attends. So that's why we are sharing the link now, but we will email you the video. Several of you were asking about that. So we will, yes.
Patty, does the video have any slimming properties? Cause like, can it make us, no? Okay.
I don't know, we'll see.
Edit that, that'd be great. Cause I have
edited it,
sure
yes.
gained, thank you. I want to be this big because I have gained the COVID-19. Okay, thank you.
Yes. And now this is the slideshow I was sharing before. I know we a lot of you have already left, and I know we're way past our time, but I appreciate for those who are staying to listen to the answer to your questions. So one more time, LJ Randolph, he is amazing, and we are so excited that he accepted to do it virtually, because we had originally planned to just have our regular in-person conference, but things changed. So we will continue providing our fall conference. So please, please, please visit our website, connect with us via Facebook and Twitter. We usually share resources and try to keep you all updated of what's happening across Arizona and across the nation. So thank you, everyone. Again, the QR code on the screen right now will take you right to our AZLA website. So thank you, and everybody have a wonderful school year. And please contact us. Let us know how can AZLA support you. All right. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Woo. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me.
Oh, thank you. My goodness. Thank you for volunteering.
Outside of Arizona, in Georgia.
I know we have a lot of people from everywhere, so it is so nice to see everyone.